Why do some people walk into a room and instantly attract attention, while others get ignored, even when they're more attractive? The answer has nothing to do with beauty, intelligence, or success. In fact, one of the habits you're about to hear may be quietly making you less attractive without you even realizing it. Look at these women. Which one catches your attention first? Not the prettiest, not the one with the perfect face or body, the one you'd actually want to sit down with, the one you'd want to have coffee with, the one who feels warm, interesting, magnetic. Why? Because attraction is rarely about appearance, it's about energy. Today we're talking about the hidden habits that make people less attractive, even when they're beautiful, successful, and intelligent. As you watch, notice which of these habits show up in your own life. And let's start with the most important one. Before we talk about body language, confidence, or social skills, you need to understand this. People don't respond to your words first, they respond to your state. Every time you walk into a room, join a conversation, or speak in public, you're transmitting something. Your mood, your confidence, your certainty, your insecurity, and other people feel it. Think about the people everyone is naturally drawn to. They're not always the smartest, the most educated, or the most beautiful. But they have something, a presence, a spark, an inner certainty that makes people want to be around them. That's the real source of charisma. Now let's talk about the first habit that destroys attraction. Trying too hard to be liked. Of course, we all want people to like us. That's normal. The problem begins when your entire personality starts asking one question. What do I need to be so you'll approve of me? Should I act this way? Dress this way? Agree with you? Hide this part of myself? The moment that happens, you stop being a person and start becoming a mirror. And mirrors aren't magnetic. People can feel when you're constantly adjusting yourself to fit their expectations. One person likes you quiet, another likes you loud. One wants you feminine, another wants you ambitious. One wants you agreeable, another wants you bold. Eventually, you become so busy managing everyone's preferences that you lose contact with your own. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The more desperately you try to be liked, the less attractive you become. Not because people are cruel, because uncertainty creates tension. When someone doesn't know who they are, others instinctively feel it. Instead of respect, it often triggers irritation. Instead of attraction, it creates imbalance. The most attractive people aren't the ones who please everyone. They're the ones who know who they are. They can change their hairstyle, change their clothes, experiment with different roles, but they're doing it from choice, not from fear. The question is never, what do they want me to be? The question is, who am I when nobody is telling me who to become? That answer creates confidence. Confidence creates presence. Presence creates attraction. Because people are naturally drawn to strength, not domination, not perfection, but certainty. And certainty is impossible when you're constantly asking the world for permission to be yourself.
Now let's talk about the second habit
that quietly kills attraction. And social media has turned it into an epidemic. Trying to be perfect. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The perfect family, the perfect skin, the perfect body, the perfect morning routine, the perfect diet, the perfect relationship, the perfect life. They wake up at 5 a.m., journal, meditate, drink organic coffee with milk that isn't milk, eat gluten-free everything, hit the gym, stay productive all day, look flawless, and somehow never seem to have a bad moment. At first, it's inspiring. Then something strange happens. You stop admiring them. You start feeling annoyed. Why? Because perfection without humanity feels fake. At some point you want to ask, blink twice if you're being held hostage. Because where's the real person? Where are the bad days? Where are the mistakes? Where is the humanity? Here's the irony. The harder people try to look perfect, the more disconnected they become from everyone around them. Because human beings don't connect through perfection. They connect through authenticity, through flaws, through vulnerability, through the moments that make us real. And this is where I want you to ask yourself a difficult question. Why are you trying so hard to be perfect? Why is it so hard to let people see the real you? Why do you think you're only lovable when everything looks polished? Because that's a prison, and most people are living in it without realizing it. Real confidence is not looking perfect. Real confidence is being okay with being seen imperfectly. Maybe your skin breaks out sometimes. Maybe you've gained weight. Maybe your life isn't Instagram-worthy every single day. Maybe your house is messy. Maybe you don't have everything figured out. Good. You're alive. Stop treating normal human experiences like personal failures. Here's something most people never understand. The people with the strongest presence are rarely the most perfect people in the room. They're the people who have stopped apologizing for being human. They're comfortable in their own skin. They don't spend every waking moment trying to manage other people's opinions. They know who they are, and that's magnetic. Let me say something that might upset a few people. If you weigh 100 pounds more than you'd like, but genuinely love yourself, you're more attractive than someone who looks perfect but secretly hates who they are. If you live alone and you're happy, that's attractive. If you have 5 children and love your life, that's attractive. If you have 25 cats and you're genuinely fulfilled, that's attractive. Why? Because certainty is attractive. Self-acceptance is attractive. People may judge you. People may disagree with you. People may even be irritated by you. That's fine. The goal is not to make everyone comfortable. The goal is to be comfortable with yourself. Because the moment you find that inner direction, that internal compass, your entire presence changes. Think about every unforgettable character you've ever seen in a movie. None of them were perfect. The reason they stayed in your memory is because they had flaws, quirks, contradictions, scars, and personality. A sterile character is a dead character, and a dead character creates no emotional connection. The same is true in real life. Your imperfections are often the most interesting thing about you. In fact, some of the most admired masterpieces in history contain small imperfections. And somehow those imperfections make them even more beautiful. So stop asking, how do I become perfect? Start asking, what am I hiding that makes me human? Because your greatest source of attraction is usually hiding behind the flaw you've spent years trying to erase. And that brings us to the next habit. Now let's talk about a habit that instantly makes people less attractive, no matter how successful they are. Arrogance. And here's what's fascinating. Arrogance doesn't come from strength. It comes from insecurity wearing expensive clothes. You've probably met people like this. They're rich, successful, beautiful, well-connected. They walk into a room and act as if everyone else is beneath them. And for a moment, some people are impressed. But not for long. Because arrogance creates distance, not admiration. Real confidence makes people feel comfortable. Arrogance makes people feel small. And the only people truly attracted to arrogance are those who already feel inferior and hope that standing next to someone powerful will somehow make them powerful too. But watch real leaders. Watch people who genuinely have influence. Watch people who don't need to prove anything. They have a completely different energy. They can sit down with a billionaire and a janitor on the same day and treat both people with equal respect. They don't see bank accounts. They don't see status. They see human beings. That's power. That's confidence. That's charisma. When someone knows exactly who they are, they don't need to remind everyone else how important they are. And here's the irony. The moment you start looking down on people, you actually become smaller in their eyes. Because suddenly all that success, all that beauty, all that status becomes less impressive. People stop seeing your achievements and start seeing your ego. And nothing kills attraction faster than that. Now, here's something even more subtle. There are habits that quietly lower your value in the eyes of others, and they show up most clearly in the way you speak. Have you ever noticed how nervous people rush through every sentence as if they're being chased? They talk fast, they never pause. They fill every second of silence with, like, and nervous chatter. Why? Because silence feels uncomfortable. But confident people understand something powerful. Silence is not your enemy. Silence is authority. Silence gives your words weight. Another habit that weakens your presence is apologizing for existing. Sorry, can I have a coffee? Sorry, can I say something? Constantly apologizing tells the world that you believe your needs are an inconvenience. And eventually, people start believing it too. Then there's the habit of shrinking your opinions. I'm not an expert, but maybe I'm wrong, but this is probably stupid, but stop doing that. If you have something to say it. Let people agree or disagree, but stop asking permission to have a voice. Every time you minimize yourself, you train others to minimize you too. And that brings us to the next habit, which might be the most important one in this entire video. Neglecting yourself. Not self-care as a trend, not spa days, not pretending. Real self-attention. Most people are paying attention to everyone except themselves. They're tracking other people's needs, other people's moods, other people's expectations, while completely ignoring what their own mind and body are trying to tell them. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you genuinely checked in with yourself? Not your social media profile, not your goals, not your productivity. You, your body, your energy, your stress level, your emotions. Because attractive people have one thing in common. They're connected to themselves. If something feels off, they don't ignore it. They get curious. If they're exhausted, they ask why. If their health changes, they pay attention. If they're unhappy, they investigate instead of distracting themselves. That's self-respect. And self-respect is attractive. Here's another uncomfortable truth. Many people postpone living until they become the perfect version of themselves. When I lose 20 pounds, then I'll buy nice clothes. When I meet someone, then I'll be happy. When I make more money, then I'll take care of myself. But life doesn't start later. Life is happening right now. The version of you that exists today deserves care today, deserves confidence today, deserves beautiful things today. Because self-worth isn't something you earn, it's something you practice. Think about why you go to the gym. Is it only to look better in photos? Or is it because you want strong legs that carry you through life, a strong back, a healthy heart, more energy, more freedom? One motivation comes from insecurity, the other comes from self-respect, and people can feel the difference. The most attractive people aren't obsessed with proving their value. They already believe they have value. That's why they take care of themselves, not to impress strangers, not for approval, but because they matter to themselves. And that changes everything. And here's what I want you to remember. Attraction isn't about being perfect. It's not about being the smartest person in the room, the richest person in the room, or the most beautiful person in the room. It's about being real. The people who leave the strongest impression are rarely the ones trying to impress everyone. They're the ones who know who they are, accept who they are, and show up as that person unapologetically. So ask yourself, which of these habits have been stealing your power? Which one are you ready to let go of today? Let me know in the comments. And if this video helped you see yourself a little more clearly, make sure to subscribe because we're just getting started.